All right, well, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Hannah. Is it going to be okay for me to do a share screen?
Yes, you should have.
Okay, great. All right, well, I will do that. Can you all see my slideshow? You can, great. All right. All right. Can you see the full screen? Or are you seeing like the presenter screen? Full screen. Okay, great. It's always a little confusing. I'm trying to figure out which one everybody can see. All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. My name is Chris Manganello. I'm the Water Policy Director at Chattahoochee Riverkeeper. For folks who don't know, Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, we are a watershed-based organization based here in Atlanta. We got offices in Gainesville and LaGrange. And we work to make sure there's enough clean water in the Chattahoochee for all the people and communities and the environment for everybody who needs it. Chattahoochee Riverkeeper is also a member of what's called the Georgia Water Coalition. And I'm going to talk today about the Georgia Water Coalition and the things that we are looking forward to working on in the upcoming legislative session. Just a real quick, a few things on the Georgia Water Coalition. Georgia Water Coalition has been around since 2002. Chattahoochee Riverkeeper was one of about 3 or 4 founding members. Back in 2002, it was mostly organized around working on legislative issues. Today, the coalition has grown to about 280 different groups from all over the state, from small watershed groups to statewide organizations like Georgia Chapter of Sierra Club, Environment Georgia, Georgia Wildlife Federation, as well as all of the other river keepers and water keepers in the state, of which there are, I think there are about like 6 or 7 of us. And our job, in some ways, what we do is we amplify local issues that have statewide implications. In some ways, it's a great example of what's called watershed democracy, the idea that everybody that lives in like a specific place where all their water comes from, the idea is that they are kind of best positioned to be able to talk about how their resources should be used. And so in some ways, that's how the Water Coalition works. We can take these issues that kind of emerge in certain parts of the state, and we can help amplify them and bring them to statewide attention, and if need be, work on them at the legislative level. So we have a couple different things that the Water Coalition does. We in the past, we've produced these reports called the Dirty Dozen, kind of highlighting 12 issues that impact water resources in the state. We kind of lay out what the issues are and then lay out what the resolution is that we think will fix the problem. We also in the past we've done an event called the Clean 13, which is kind of just the opposite. It's designed to kind of highlight 13 good actors, whether
it was actually great.
Excuse me. Whether they are individuals, local governments, or even industries and corporations and companies that are all doing the right thing. We kind of honor them as being kind of Clean 13, good users of water resources in the state. So those are just kind of some of the different things we do, and I'll talk a little bit more about how you can get involved in the Water Coalition as we move through here. But again, today we're just going to be talking primarily about the legislative session, some of the things that we'll be working on. The Georgia General Assembly, in just kind of give you like a 30,000-foot level, Georgia General Assembly, kicked off the season last week, and it is the first of what's called a 2-year cycle. So we'll be kind of working through the first year, between now and the end of March. The General Assembly meets for 40 days. It's not necessarily 40 consecutive days. They have set their schedule, so we do know that the session will be concluding at the end of March this year. Sometimes it kind of sneaks into April, but it's always done. They always finish the season, the legislative session, up before the Masters, so that everybody can get to Augusta and watch some golf. So it'll definitely be before the Masters this year. But anyhow, that's the General Assembly. It usually runs on a 2-year cycle. This is the first year of 2, 40 days long. And yeah, it'll be wrapping up around March 29th. This week, they are working exclusively on the budget that was presented by Governor Kemp. And so they're working through that this week. They are hearing from different agency and department heads about how those agencies and departments will kind of align their budgets with what the state is looking for. And that's actually the only thing the General Assembly has to do. By Constitution, they just have to meet and approve a budget. So in theory, theoretically, they could approve a budget within the first couple of weeks and then everybody can go home, but that's just not the way it works. They will meet for 40 days and get into all sorts of things, some of which I'll get talking to in just a moment here. So the Water Coalition, what we do every year, every legislative session, we pick a couple priorities, 2 priorities to work on. Well, it's kind of 3, but I'll get to that. We pick 2 priorities to work on. And this year, we have been working on the Okefenokee and how to protect the Okefenokee from mining. And then the other thing, the big issue we're going to be working on is the ground application of waste in different kind of products. And I'll get into details about both of those. And then the third thing we work on is kind of a grab bag. We work on what's called rollbacks. And a rollback is this idea that, we have state laws that are designed to protect the environment and natural resources. And every year at the legislature, somebody introduces a bill that would weaken an existing state law or regulation that is designed to protect environment and natural resources. And so we mobilize to fight those rollbacks of what is effective law that's in place. So again, we kind of had these 3 priorities this year: the Okefenokee, working on this ground application of waste, and we are always working on fighting rollbacks every season, because usually we have more of those to deal with than we know what to do with. But anyhow, so let's see. Moving on here, the first issue I'll talk about today that we are going to be working on is the Okefenokee and protecting the Okefenokee swamp in the region from mining forever. The problem here is that there is a titanium dioxide mine that has been proposed adjacent to the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge. It's proposed, almost 4 years ago or so. Again, the idea here is that what we're most concerned about is that mining near the Okefenokee can threaten the health, safety, and economy of the whole region. The map you see here, the little red area there is where this proposed mine is right now. It's on a geologic feature called Trail Ridge, and like you can see, it's adjacent to the Okefenokee swamp, which is all in the green there. And this is not the first time that mining has been proposed in this region and adjacent to the swamp. Back in the 1990s, DuPont thought they would come in and do some mining, but that proposal was essentially defeated, and DuPont walked away. And so what the Water Coalition has proposed with all the groups that we've been working with, that the solution here really is to pass legislation that would permanently protect the Okefenokee from future mining proposals. And so the idea ideally would be that we would be able to pass a law that would stop future mining along Trail Ridge. And we did some polling. We determined that about 68% of people who were polled supported passing such a law to protect the Okefenokee. And that poll was pretty broad. It was a statewide poll. It was people not just who live around the Okefenokee, but also people who live in other parts of the state thought that the Okefenokee is worth protecting from future mining. So that's the Okefenokee. There's a little QR code up here on the right side, on the right-hand part of the slide. If you want to learn more about this particular issue that the Water Coalition is working on, you can just hold up your phone and take a little picture of that. And I'm also happy to share these slides with you, Hannah, so y'all can use them and distribute them to folks that were a part of the call or folks that were not. So that's the Okefenokee. Let's see, the other issue that we are working on as the Water Coalition has to deal with the ground application of waste. And the idea here is we want to protect rural communities from really what's industrial waste. So today, the law says the Georgia Department of Agriculture can issue a license to people who will distribute fertilizers, soil amendments, or these things called liming agents, right? These are all things that can be spread on the ground to improve soil quality and to benefit agricultural processes and purposes, right? We all know that fertilizers and soil and healthy soil is good for growing things. The problem is that in the situations that we're dealing with, which are mostly in East and Northeast Georgia is that overall this kind of system of fertilizers and soil, of regulating fertilizers and soil amendments, it's really a poorly operated system. It has resulted in the spreading on the ground of all sorts of industrial wastes, like cleaning solvents from food and food processing facilities, animal parts, and pieces of chicken eggs, sometimes still with little baby chickens inside of them, and other kind of septage and other things. This just gets spread on the ground in rural parts of Georgia, and it has resulted in some groundwater contamination. There are other nuisances like odors and flies. You can see a picture here on the left of a homeowner, property owner adjacent to one of these places where all these wastes are just spread on the ground. These are just all flies that have been attracted and stuck to this kind of fly paper. Fish kills, we also see, like, when this waste is poorly applied onto an agricultural field, and then it rains, or sometimes when it even doesn't rain, this material that is spread on the ground can run off into surface water and has resulted in fish kills, as this article on the upper left hand demonstrates. So again, there is a law that allows for the licensing of soil amendments and fertilizers. The problem is that the system is not really well regulated and has demonstrated bad consequences. And so the solution is, there are kind of a couple different pieces of the solution. The idea here is that if someone is taking these materials onto their property, and usually they're actually paid to take them, right? So it's allowing some sort of industry to find a willing landowner who will accept payment to take these particular things and bring them onto their property. The idea is that if you're going to take these things onto your property, then you should actually be a farm and you're actually producing actual farm products. It's not uncommon in some of the examples we have seen that these are just kind of properties that are large open fields, and all this stuff kind of gets dumped on it, and it's not actually used for an agricultural purpose. The other part of the solution is that the idea is that the right to know what is being land applied and spread on these fields would be helpful. The right to help. Local governments are limited in what they can do to help kind of regulate and enforce potential bad actors. So part of the solution at the General Assembly would be to help empower local governments to be a part of the process here. And then also just knowing, again, this kind of piece of the right to know is know that what actually is being applied is safe. And there's kind of a limited amount of information that is required to demonstrate actually what is in these fertilizers and soil amendments. So there's kind of always a bit of a big question mark about what these things are. Those are, again, like the two main priorities the Water Coalition is working on: the Okefenokee and this kind of ground waste, and then obviously, as I said, the rollbacks we will be dealing with. Those three things. So, like, how can you get involved? There are a couple different ways. One, you can sign up for action alerts, and we have a system called the Protect Georgia Action Alert. Again, if you use that QR code in the upper right, it would take you directly to a website where you can sign up to get action alerts. We send out action alerts, when we're at the legislature and we have a situation where maybe there's a vote that's going to take place, and we want folks all over the state to let their legislators know how they think they should vote on that particular bill. So you can sign up for these alerts. They would be sent out directly to you. Everybody's probably familiar with the action alert concept. You would click on it, and you would be able to send a message directly to your legislator from where you live. Both your House and your Senate legislators would hear from you about what you think about a very specific item that may be before them at the General Assembly. So you can sign up for Protect Georgia Alerts. You can also, the other thing you can do is attend Capitol Conservation Day. We haven't set a date yet. It'll probably be in mid to late February. What we do is we invite folks from all the kind of environmental groups all over the state, members of the Water Coalition. You come down to the Capitol, we meet, we have a breakfast, and then we have like an issue training. and then we give folks a training on how it is that you actually lobby a legislator, and then we walk you across the street and we help you meet with your legislator, actually in the Capitol, or you can set up a meeting ahead of time, to meet them in their office. But at any rate, Capitol Conservation Day is a great opportunity for folks who've never actually engaged with their legislators to come down and do that. And usually what legislators always tell us is that, probably the most effective way to engage with a legislator is in person. So the idea that, if there's an issue that's big enough to bring a constituent all the way down to the Capitol to meet with the legislator usually says, oh, this must be important, so I have to pay attention. So Capitol Conservation Day is something that I really recommend folks to take part in, particularly if you're from different parts of the state, not from Metro Atlanta. It's a great thing to come in and again, kind of demonstrate to legislators what's important. So that's what I got. Our issues that we're working on, how you can get involved. If you got questions, you can reach out to me. Happy to help answer any questions you have, and/or direct you to the person or entity that will have the better answer that I could possibly give. So that's what I got. I'm happy to take any questions, or I don't know how you want to do that, if we save them for some other point, but turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is really helpful information and gives us a great kind of lay of the land of what to expect during the legislative session in the next couple of months. I do want to open it up for questions. If you have a couple minutes, Chris, would love, yeah, great, for folks to be able to ask some questions. So I'll open it up for Q&A.
Well, I have a question regarding the titanium mining. The Georgia Water Coalition is pushing for a ban on future mining. What about the current proposal for mining? Is it stopped at some point, or is it going forward?
The current proposal for mining is in the hands of the Georgia Department of Environmental Protection. There's, this is an application that started under, kind of a regulatory structure that exists, still today. And so any law that we would pass, is not going to affect something that's, already in the regulatory process. So, how the Georgia Department of Environmental Protection decides to, evaluate the application is really separate from the legislative process at this stage of the game. I mean, the members of the Water Coalition are actively working to, encourage the Department of Environmental Protection to reject that permit and those applications, but that is considered kind of a separate avenue from what's happening at the legislature. Good question. Is it Merle?
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned that there were 6 or 7 different agencies that were part of the Georgia Water Coalition. I'm not sure if I heard that correctly. What fraction of what you would think of as the waters in Georgia does that cover? Does it cover 20% of the waters? However you might measure it, maybe by sort of length of stream or whatever it happens to be. Or are there lots and lots of open waters, running waters that are not covered by this particular group? Thank you.
Sure. So the Georgia Water Coalition is made up of, actually, there are 280 let's say 280 groups from all over the state that are members of the Georgia Water Coalition. I would guess that the majority of the state's waters are technically, represented by one or more of those members. I'm not sure I could say with certainty that all 100% are.
Great. Any other questions from folks? Chris, if you can send me the PowerPoint, I'd love to send it out in a follow-up email. So the folks on this call and those who weren't able to make it today can have access to that.
Certainly, I'd be happy to.
Okay, great. Last chance for any questions for Chris.
Chris, a real quick question. I'm John from Decatur, and I think I fall into a boat with others who are cynical about Georgia's legislatures being actually legitimately receptive to constituent comments. Do you have anything that you can point to that would make those of us who are a bit cynical feel more heartened, I guess, that the alerts and the responses from those alerts actually generate tangible results with a particular stereotype of legislatures that you see when you walk around the Capitol?
So I've been working with the Georgia legislature for over 10 years at this point. And I think your cynicism is not without good justification. But I also think that in any political environment, regardless of the tilt on the political spectrum, there's good reason to be cynical. I think in Georgia, you also have to, there are realities as far as, what is going to constitute, a success. And so there's always got to be room for some level of, of being willing to bend what it is your expectation is. And I've seen examples where, things have worked out in ways I hadn't quite anticipated for the better. And also I've seen things certainly go for the worse. So, I guess I would say, in the state that we are in, what I've also heard someone say in the past is that you work with the legislature that you have. While we may wish that we had a super progressive, legislature, that's not what we have. And there are ways that you can work with the legislature that you have. We've been very successful in the past, working with conservative lawmakers on environmental issues when you can frame them as issues of property rights, when you frame them as issues of good government, when you frame them as economic issues, right? And when you can frame them in those ways, and I've never done this in a kind of groveling kind of way. It's always been like, we can make very legitimate property rights arguments, economic arguments. There's no pandering here when I make these arguments and I lay this out for legislators. And when you can do it in language that arguably they understand, when you can meet them where they are, then you can actually be successful. And I've seen that. And while we may not always win on a very specific issue, what I have seen is when I approach a legislator that maybe you would think is a kind of an unlikely environmentalist, I have been able to develop relationships with them because I provide them with information that is legitimate and factual. And then when the legislator tries to use that information in conversations and then they get stonewalled, you can kind of see the light bulb go off in a legislator's eyes when they basically are confronted with a stone wall, despite the fact that they think they've got all the information. And so I've been able to develop relationships based on the fact that I can develop trust based on actual information. And so I've seen that happen on many times with legislators that I didn't think would really have an interest in environmental issues, is that when you can provide them with good information and they learn to trust you, and that you're not just kind of some tree hugger or some fish kisser, that they actually realize they can trust you and that you're legitimate.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your work.
Thank you, John.
This is Jean. I participated in the Capitol Day last year, and it was very frightening and exhilarating. I was a little disappointed because my legislator was not in his office. So I was wondering, can we kind of prepare a little bit better? Can we get an appointment so that when we go there, we actually talk to our legislator?
Yes.
And
Yes. All excellent points. If you went last year, that was also a very tricky year. It was the first year we were back in the building in COVID
Right.
time.
Mhm.
And I can tell you that last year was the hardest one I've had to manage in person because of the types of restrictions they had in place. I can tell you that this coming session, that the kind of the way the General Assembly will be operated, it will be much more in line with the way it was in the past. So it should be much easier to get a legislator to come out from a particular chamber to come speak to you, because both chambers are going to reinstitute the page process. This is where they have,
Mhm.
junior and elementary, junior high school kids. They all come in and they basically
Right.
volunteer for a day, and they run messages in and out to legislators into the chambers. And that's how you can get a legislator to come out and speak to you on the ropes. Those systems will be back in place this session, which will make Capital Conservation Day hopefully much more easier. But to your other point, if you know you're going to be coming for Capital Conservation Day, you can most certainly set up an appointment with your legislator ahead of time. And I
Okay.
would encourage you to do that. You can reach out to me for help figuring out who and where and how to set that up. But that is definitely something that we encourage folks to do on Capital Conservation Day, is to potentially set up a meeting kind of so that there's more likelihood that you might meet them in
Okay.
person.
And I
But-
wanted
but-
to, oh,
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I just wanted to add on to the naysayer about does it make a difference? And I have a friend who is a legislator, and she said that she said there's no way to keep track of every bill that's happening. And when someone comes in person and provides facts, as you described yourself as giving good information, factual, she can then have some information that she didn't have before, because she can't keep track of every bill that's up and down in the legislature. So that made me a little more positive about going to visit and talking with our legislators.
That's right. Most legislators don't have staff, right? So they don't have people who are working for them that can help them be educated on certain issues. And even those that do have staff, to Jean's point, they can't know everything about every bill.
Right.
So every kind of contact is on a particular issue is helpful. And so they get 5, 10, 20 contacts from their constituents that really tell them they should be paying attention.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Hope to see you again.
Plan on it.
Yeah, this is great. And yeah, hope to see many of you at Capital Conservation Day this year. We'll be keeping you all updated about that. And also want to say that we're here and available to help you all set up some of those meetings with your legislators as well. So as that gets closer and we get more information, please do let us know if you plan to come, and we can help you coordinate those meetings and help you prep for that day as well. This is not the only time we'll be talking about the legislative session this year. So really grateful, Chris, for your time today. Kind of giving us this overview and helping us kind of jumpstart this work this year, and what we can all expect and how our faith communities can be getting involved in this. So again, thank you so much. You're welcome to stay on, Chris, for the rest of the roundtable if you'd like, but I'm also happy to give you the rest of this hour back. But just want to say thanks again for your time today and for being with us.
You're very welcome. Thanks again for inviting me. I think I will go ahead and bow out, and I will share that information with you, Hannah, and then look forward to hearing from anybody that's got questions.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for all the work you do. Bye.
Thank you. Well, so yes, that's the legislative session. We'll be continuing to give you all updates, let you know how to get involved, how to share information with your faith communities. We're open to doing workshops and inviting folks from the Georgia Water Coalition legislative team to help do some workshops in congregation. So if that's of interest, please let us know. And like I said, we'll be continuing to provide information about ways that you all can get involved. I think one of the best ways is to plan to come to Capital Conservation Day. So as soon as we have dates for that, we'll let you all know, and we'll do some more prep with you all before that happens. I want to transition a little bit to some GIPL updates, housekeeping things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can jump into a little bit of planning and things for this year. So it's a new year, which is very exciting. And we want to spend a little bit of time talking today about kind of what are some things that you all should be doing in the new year to kind of help kick off your green team in 2023 and kind of get your congregation involved in this work. So one of the things that we recommend is getting a meeting with your faith leader to talk about what are your congregation's sustainability goals for 2023. So if your green team has goals and you've not yet met with your faith leader to discuss those goals, I think now is a really good time to do that. Find out too from your faith leader what it is that they want to see. Do they have goals or expectations or projects that they want to be working on that maybe they haven't communicated with you yet? We would love for you to also talk to them about dedicating 1 or 2 services in 2023 to an environmental message. So that could look like asking your faith leader to preach on an environmental scripture or topic, or to invite a guest preacher, somebody from GIPL or elsewhere, to do that, to kind of have a dedicated service. This could be around Earth Day, it could be around another time of the year, but kind of focusing the message, music, liturgy on an environmental message. I think that's a great way to communicate with the broader congregation that this is a commitment that your faith community has, and that this is something that is rooted in your faith tradition. And then related to that, now is a great time to start talking about an Earth Day Sunday or event. Deciding what you might want to do as a green team. Earth Day is coming up at the end of April, which feels kind of far from now, but I promise it's coming up fast. So thinking about, whether you're wanting to do a service project, if you're wanting to have a class or workshop, if you're wanting to take that weekend to, incorporate these environmental messages into your services, worship services that weekend. Now is a great time to start talking about that. And I think your faith leader can help kind of guide what that might look like. But GIPL's here to help provide content or messaging or staff for Earth Day. So now's a great time to start planning for that. Kind of related to getting a meeting with your faith leader, I think it would be great to also get a meeting with some other key congregation staff. So a couple of people who could be helpful to meet with this month would be if your congregation has a communications director or somebody designated on staff who's sending out emails, putting together newsletters, doing social media. This could be a faith leader. This could be a separate communications person, but finding out who that person is if you don't already know and getting a meeting with them. We're going to talk a little bit more today about some communication things, but one of the things that you all can help GIPL with is getting the word out about the events that we have coming up and about the advocacy alerts that we're sending to you. And so talking to your communications director about what's the best way for you all to be sending them information. If they want to be directly in contact with GIPL, we're happy to send things directly to them. If they need certain things from you all by certain deadlines, it's just good to know what those deadlines are, what their preferred method of communicating with the congregation is, so that you can work with them to get this information out to the broader congregation. And then another key congregation staff to meet with would be a youth director or a faith leader who's working with youth. If your congregation has a youth group or does things with kids and youth, it would be great to get them more involved in some of this. We would love to see youth at our events, at roundtables as part of your green teams. And so I think talking to whoever's overseeing that programming in your congregation and asking, what are the ways that we can get youth more directly involved in this, identifying maybe a couple of youth who would want to be a liaison on the green team would be fantastic. And then lastly, just a reminder that we have a congregational survey that we can send to you that you can adapt for your congregation and send out to your congregation. And the survey asks questions like, what environmental topics are you interested in? What kind of programs would you want to attend? And it can be a way for you to survey your congregation and figure out, what are folks interested in, who maybe is not on the green team, who wants to be on the green team, and that the answers from that survey can help you plan out your year and think about what kinds of events and activities folks in the congregation would be interested in and want to attend. So just some kind of overarching ideas and things to do kind of at the beginning of the new year to help set your plan for 2023. And as always, Joanna and I are here to help you all with this planning. We would love to get a meeting with your green team this month and just kind of talk about what your plans are for this year and how GIPL can support those. Again, kind of along the same lines, here are just some ideas of things to think about for this year. These are things to do once a year, more than once a year, but it would be great if every green team wanted to do one of these activities this year. So hosting a GIPL class or workshop, we have a list of classes and workshops on our website. We're updating those this week. We have a couple new class offerings that we're really excited about. So hopefully something's standing out to you all, but we'd love the chance to engage your broader congregation in that way. We've been doing river cleanups in partnership with Chattahoochee River Keeper and ones that we're leading ourselves. And we've been doing tree plantings in partnership with Trees Atlanta, but we're really trying to increase the number of those that we do this year. So there are some that are already scheduled that we'll talk about at the end of this call. There's also the possibility that we can plan one just for your green team or congregation. So if you're interested in a river cleanup or a tree planting, keep an eye out for the ones that GIPL is planning and also reach out to us and we can plan one for you all. We would love for our green teams to get involved with advocacy action. So you all just heard from Chris from the Georgia Water Coalition, but this could look like attending a lobbying day like Capitol Conservation Day, setting up lobby meetings throughout the year, attending events or rallies, inviting GIPL to come and do advocacy workshop with your congregation and get some petitions signed or something like that. Or if there's a local issue that you all are really interested in, we can help you figure out like how you might work on that issue, what legislators you would need to work with. But doing some kind of advocacy action or event this year. And then you all are familiar with a lot of the educational tours that we've been offering for green teams, but these are great opportunities for your congregation to learn more as well. So we did that tour of a recycling facility last year, and that's something that we can set up for your congregation of like Pratt Industries or West Rock recycling tour, a tour of the Candida building, a tour of Emory's Water Hub. These are all things that we can help set up and facilitate for your congregation. So just another idea of ways to engage your congregation and kind of, expand some what educational opportunities look like around some of these issues. Like I mentioned, we would love your help this year getting the word out about our advocacy initiatives. So there's a couple of ways that you all can help us with this and ways that we're going to try to do a better job equipping you to help us with this. This could look like submitting a comment to legislators, taking like one of those Protect Georgia action alerts. So that's a website that Chris was sending you all to. That's going to be actions or alerts or comments around some of our state issues. You've also been receiving emails from me and from other GIPL staff about some of our federal advocacy things. So right now we're working on submitting comments to the EPA. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But what we need is your help getting these links out to your congregations. We have goals of getting, 100 to 200 signatures a month on some of these petitions. And the only way for us to meet those goals is with your help. So it's great for everybody on this call to be taking these actions, but we also need you to commit to sending these links to 10 other people. So if everybody on the green team sent the links to even 5 folks that they knew in the congregation, that would get us 30 to 40 signatures on these petitions just from a single green team. So what we're going to commit to is providing you with kind of a small social media toolkit for all of these asks. So you'll get talking points, you'll get the link to the ask, and you'll get a QR code either directly to the form or to our website, which will contain the form. So it would be great if you can put all of this information in a newsletter or a bulletin so folks could scan the QR code, before the worship service starts, and could easily kind of fill it out, submit the action then. Could take that home with them, do it when they get home. If you can talk to your faith leader, your communications coordinator about sending out a link in an email to the congregation, posting it on social media, all of these ways would help tremendously with circulating some of these links. So again, we'll be providing you with the talking points and like a blurb, the link, the QR code. So hopefully all you need to do is send that to a communications person or the faith leader, and asking them to send it out. But you all can also send it to folks in the congregation, family and friends, who might be interested in submitting this link. And that really helps us get the signatures on the petitions that we need. So I just wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about that as kind of a goal for us this year. Related to that, in just a second, I'll drop these links in the chat, but our current federal advocacy ask is still around the methane rule. So in November, President Biden issued an updated draft rule to cut methane and other harmful pollutants from new and existing oil and gas operations. And now we need to urge our leaders to quickly finalize the strongest possible safeguards to cut methane and other harmful pollution from the oil and gas industry. And so, like I said, I'm going to put 2 links in the chat for that. One is a grassroots link, and I'll label these when I put them in the chat. But the grassroots link is for you all to fill out and for you to circulate with your green teams and congregations. Then there's also a grass tops link. So we would love for you to send that link to your faith leader and ask them to fill it out. So I'll put both of those in the chat, and I'm happy to answer any questions about those as well. Second to last thing is here's just a reminder of our dates for our Green Team Roundtables this year. I'll send this out in the email as well. And I had offered this in December, but want to uplift this again. If you all want to be added to the calendar invite so that it's popping up on your calendar and you don't have to just be reminded through emails, I'm happy to add you to a calendar invite. So just send me an email. Let me know that you want to be added to that. I'll add you to all of the calendar invitations for all of these dates this year. In a minute, when I stop sharing my screen, I'd also love to have just a little conversation about whether or not folks are interested in evening roundtables. We had done this occasionally last year, but didn't feel like we were getting a great turnout and felt like noon was a better time for a lot of folks. But I know that there are also Green Team members and leaders who work full-time, and noon is sometimes a difficult time for them to attend roundtables. And so right now we don't have any evening roundtables planned, but we are happy to schedule those once a quarter for the folks for which evening would be better. But I'm just trying to get a sense of whether or not that would be of interest to folks. So we can talk about that in a minute. I'd love to hear from all of you. And then the last thing that I want to uplift today is our Green Team Summit, which is scheduled for February 26th from 2 to 8 p.m. at Temple Sinai. Registration opened last week. So tickets are on sale now. And we are going to be announcing the schedule and the workshops by the end of this week. So I'll send an email out when that's on our website. But would love for you all to please circulate this information with your green team, send out the save the date. Now is a great time to start registering for the summit. We'll have workshops talking about funding resources through the Inflation Reduction Act for congregations, workshops on state advocacy, workshops on green teams. Some of our green teams will be leading a workshop talking about how they've mobilized their green teams and congregations. So we have a lot of great stuff planned. It's our 20-year celebration. So we're really excited to celebrate with all of you, do some reflecting on the last 20 years and talk about what's next in the next 20 years for GIPL. So please help us circulate this information and make sure that your congregations and faith leaders have the link to register for the summit. And then Joanna, I want to give you a chance to share about some upcoming events as well.
Yes, so this it's about in 2 weeks, Sunday, February 5th is the Jewish holiday of Tu B'Shvat, which is the birthday of the trees. And we will be planting 73 trees at Wade Walker Park in Stone Mountain. You can find all the information, the registration on our website under events. And we would love to see some GIPL members there. It's from 1 to 4. And it's a beautiful way to very much use your hands and really do beautiful work. And what else? The following day, Monday, February 6th, we're holding a virtual Tu B'Shvat Seder. So if you're curious to know more about Tu B'Shvat and what it's about, you are welcome to read more also on our events page. Please sign up and attend the Seder. It's going to be an evening activity kind of around dinner time. So 6:30 to 8:30. And a lot of people on this call are part of the planning committee and even some presenters. So we're hoping to see you all at some of those.
Awesome. Thanks, Joanna. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and would love to, hear from you all, your thoughts on evening roundtables, what you need from us this year, how we can help support you, and what questions you have about any of the things that we've shared today.
Thank you, Hannah and Joanna. I have to jump off in a second, but I'm open to trying out a later time. And the only question I have that I know you and I have talked about quite a bit this year are the eco challenges. And I'm just curious if those are disbanding for now, or if the advocacy actions are kind of replacing those, or if you have any other thoughts on those. Thank you.
Yes, great question. We are disbanding the Eco Challenge for right now. I think the format in which we were using last year was not working super well for us or from green teams. It seemed like, I think it was hard to kind of implement the things that we were asking in the amount of time that we were asking. And so we're open to trying a different format of Eco Challenge this year, but we don't have anything for this quarter. And I think the advocacy alerts is kind of the focus right now, and what we would love for you all to really, instead of, the Eco Challenge, I think, had all of these moving pieces, and the idea with like these action alerts is like, this is the one ask that we're really asking our green teams to focus on and to like send out to congregations. So we want to see how that goes. And if that format's working well, it's possible that we could add some other kind of Eco Challenge-esque things to that. But I think the focus right now is on these advocacy alerts and sharing those petitions with congregations. And we want to really equip you all to do that well and get that moving smoothly. And then we'll revisit the Eco Challenge. But thank you for bringing that up and asking that. Myrtle.
I'm trying to tie together the different things I've listened to today. I'm taking notes. And you suggest if you'd like to have GIPL help us set up a river cleanup in our congregation and all sorts of stuff like this, why can't we do these things communally? I mean, you also speak about Earth Day coming up. Can we have a GIPL Earth Day river cleanup? It'll be warm enough. And we're beginning to accumulate ideas about places we can go to. And with all these storms we've had recently, there's just lots of stuff out there. So, I mean, that is just one suggestion of something. I'm just trying to pull us together as a group. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that. And that's definitely a possibility. That's something that another green team brought up recently as well. So in terms of like an Earth Day cleanup or service project, that's something that I'm thinking about and definitely open to. And that's something we've done in the past and we could do more of. We, had 100 people at Mason Mill Park doing a cleanup in September for World River Day. So we're planning on doing that again in September, but definitely open to more community-wide cleanups. This is great. I mean, we want to hear from you all what you want. So I know some congregations are really interested in doing kind of congregation specific projects, but if what you all are interested in is like a community-wide cleanup, that's definitely something we're open to, and would love to work with you, Myrtle, and others who are interested in that and thinking about what that looks like.
to piggyback on what Myrtle was sharing, I'm wondering if GIPL would be willing to consider either using its emails or its website to let us post non-congregation specific programming that we think local churches around us or local communities would appreciate. I think sometimes there's this notion that we're sort of on a little island and we're trying to produce programming for our congregations that aren't necessarily religious or denominational specific. And so I'm just wondering if GIPL could be a bit of a clearinghouse to allow us to then share those more general kind of useful programs to others. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. And, you know, for right now, happy if you want to send things to me, happy to send it out to Green Teams and invite the Green Team Network. Once we have a new communications coordinator in place, that's definitely something that I will bring to them, and I would love to talk to them about like how we can do that, whether it's on the website or we have talked around the idea of having like a Green Team list serve so that you all can email things to each other and it doesn't have to go through us. So that's something that we're definitely open to. So yeah, let me think of a little bit about how that would work, but I think that's a great idea and definitely want to help facilitate you all, you know, lifting up programming to each other, because there's a lot of great things that your faith communities do that that you should all know about.
Hannah, this is Alden Hathaway from St. David's, and I was wondering if you'd ever considered a carbon pledge for everybody to be able to sign up to and do it, and based on a honor system, voluntary carbon reduction to zero. That kind of thing, and allow people to earn credit for volunteering, planting trees when they're planting trees and other things to help them meet their pledge. But is that something that GIPL would consider? Is it just too much?
That's a great question. I think that's something that we would be open to considering and be something we'd have to think a little bit about how that would work. But let me write that down and we can talk about it and see what that might look like.
And it's possible that other IPLs have goals like that. So we could kind of look into what others are doing and maybe have something that's very Georgia specific and appropriate.
Yeah, I'm thinking you could tie it into Georgia, Drawdown Georgia, the whole
exactly.
carbon reduction program.
Yeah,
Make it
I
part
know
of
they
that.
have a lot of resources around that and ways to be kind of tracking carbon. So let me look and see like what's already out there and what we might be able to come up with.
So you'll let us know what other IPLs are doing and what we might could do. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Josh.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Awesome. Well, first, thanks for an awesome session. This was great stuff. Secondly, as y'all know, I'm very plugged in on the Okefenokee piece of the puzzle. And to echo what Chris has said, we are making a big push with the Okefenokee Protection Act coming back for another try this session. Last session, the bill was introduced in February with 18 co-sponsors and had a lot of great momentum. Unfortunately, didn't get a hearing, but we've got even more support this year, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to have a hearing and maybe even get a floor vote this year, which would be awesome. The timeline on that is going to be pretty quick. The bill could be introduced as soon as next week. And so it would be fantastic if, GIPL working through the Water Coalition or otherwise, would be on standby to reach out to legislators who we are trying to get to co-sign the bill before we introduce it. And then once it's introduced, getting the folks to commit to support it afterwards. So what we are working on is a target list for mainly Republicans around the state who we need to get on. And so as soon as we get that list, I'll share it with you guys, Hannah and Joanna, and y'all figure out how you want to transmit it to the network. But things are going to be, again, moving fairly quickly on that. So just wanted to highlight that for you and for the group. And excited cautiously that we'll make a leap forward on it this year.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
sharing those
thank you.
updates. And yeah, I know we'll be working with the Water Coalition on the strategy around that, and we'll be involved in that. So yeah,
Great.
that's great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian.
Hey, thanks, Hannah, and apologies for missing the first 3/4 of this meeting. I'm Brian Jacob from St. David's in Roswell, along with Alden Hathaway there. So glad Alden was able to join. One of the things that we recently completed was installing Ecobee Wi-Fi enabled thermostats throughout our whole campus, and we're in the process of configuring them together and starting to get data off of them. But it was one of the recommendations from our PowerWise energy audit. And it seems like it's a bit of a standard recommendation. So maybe there's other congregations that have done something similar. And I'm becoming familiar with the capabilities of the Ecobees now, that there's a score that they will record. And as we start to build data, if others are doing the same, opportunities to compare our results or maybe even gamify it somehow and have a little bit of healthy competition between congregations, I think would be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And yeah, it's something else that, yeah, we'll need to think a little bit about of like how we want to collect some of that information and could highlight, we definitely want to highlight, you know, what you all are doing and kind of love that being a competition or a challenge between congregations. I think we can have more conversations about this, but for all of the congregations that have gotten PowerWise audits through us, all of your information is in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So we're kind of benchmarking congregations against each other, or not against each other, but benchmarking energy usage in that way. And so would love, we'll talk about this maybe at another roundtable, but would love for congregations to be keeping up with that benchmarking and so that we can share what those statistics are, how, you know, the projects have contributed to lower bills and energy usage and all of that. And we'd love to be able to highlight that. And then also, yeah, use that as a way for congregations to kind of see where they're at compared to other faith communities. So we can talk more about that, what that looks like, but we're already doing some of that benchmarking. So we'd love to continue using that tool and then also maybe think about some other ways that we can be tracking this data for you all. Awesome. Well, I know it's already past 1, but again, just want to say thank you all for your time today. I'll be sending out a follow-up email with the slide deck from Chris and with the recording of this and with the links that I shared and with my PowerPoint. But Joanna and I are here as a resource for you all. These have been some great ideas and some things for us to think about. So please keep sending us ideas or things that you want to see from GIPL our way. And yeah, we want to be accessible to you all and be providing tools and resources that are beneficial and helpful and are things that you all want to see. So keep sending us your ideas and we'll work on some of the things we talked about today. But great to see you all. And yeah, we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.